Oh, this is going to be a wonderful panel. Ricky, I already love the Blazer. Just got to say, Aneesh, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us. I don't even know what time it is for you there, but I know it's late, right?
It's 12:30 a.m.
Oh man, the dedication. I love it. And Dale and LaNelle, welcome.
Hello.
Everyone, you guys are in. Oh, and you got matching. I love it.
Oh,
Matching.
you know how we do. You should know how we do here.
Yes, I love it. I'm going to get out your way and give you all your time. You all have the moderator of moderators, one of my fellow diversity avengers from Microsoft, Aneesh. Take it away. I'll get out your way. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for the intro, Charlie. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel. I'm excited to join you guys today. I'm in. I live in Hyderabad, so it's a little bit early in the morning. It's about 12:30 on Friday, I think. But we have Ricardo Bonilla, who is a principal at Fish and Richardson, a graduate of Texas Tech School of Law. We have Dale Davis, the chief IP counsel and deputy general counsel of Cummins. He's a graduate of North Carolina Central University. And we have LaNelle Owens, who is the chief trademark counsel of Cummins and is a graduate of Howard University School of Law, which, if I'm not mistaken, Charlie, your alma mater.
Yes, indeed.
You know.
Yeah,
I knew that was coming. I was just waiting.
I'm familiar with the Hustle Gang. This is an important topic we're talking about today. We're talking about IP diversity in the IP profession, and there's a strong reason why it first matters. First off, I mean, the majority of the value in companies today is in the IP, right? So like that is wealth creation being amassed because of IP. And as we're looking at innovation, creativity, we're increasingly looking at a place where ideas are coming from different places and they're coming for different markets, right? Markets are growing all over the world in a way unlike in the past, where it was typically centered around the traditional Western European markets, and so the ideas are different. You're focusing on different markets. You need to bring in a group of professionals who represent the types of inventors who are around, right? Who can understand, who can connect with the businesses. And so you want professionals who can transcend borders, understand different cultures, and speak to them. I think if you're not looking at a diverse IP practice, you could have blind spots, right? There are areas that you wouldn't think are important. I see it every day as I'm now in India. I work with a lot of my Microsoft clients who are focused on an Indian market, which is a mobile first market, right? It's not a broadband first market, and it just functions differently. And so, getting a IP bar that is representative of the population is crucial. And I think we're lagging very, very far behind. So it's like a real treat to be here with such great professionals. So I'm going to kick this off, and Ricky, since you're first on the picture on my thing, I'm going to ask you this question first. How do you perceive the current state of diversity within the IP legal field?
Well, I think thanks, Aneesh. I think you kind of summed it up pretty well there in that it's low, right? It's not where it needs to be. And one of the questions that you had posed to us as panelists as we were preparing for this is, are there any specific challenges? And I wanted to address that because I think it kind of helps to show that the biggest problem that we have is pipeline, is people, individuals of diverse backgrounds who end up becoming IP lawyers and getting into the IP space. And part of that, and I'm going to say this from my perspective as an immigrant, but I think it applies to all manner of diverse individuals, is that we have our sights set on, and by we, I mean diverse individuals have our sights set on different levels of success. So specifically for me, coming from Dominican Republic as a first generation college attendee, not even grad, my parents were shocked to hear that I wanted to then go to law school when I already had an engineering degree. They're like, okay, you're going to be an engineer. You've made it. You've succeeded. And a lot of students, I think, stop there because they're not seeing that representation in the legal field, in the IP space. So they're not thinking that's something that's attainable. They're stopping at the step before getting even to law school. And so I think that's something that kind of permeates throughout the profession, is that we don't get that pipeline because a lot of individuals don't know that this is an attainable goal and something they can strive for.
You know, I totally agree. I mean, I think I graduated from engineering, worked as an engineer, I think before I met my first IP lawyer, and I'd never even really heard of the profession before that. And it was only a guy I played basketball with was the company's IP lawyer. And so, yeah, I mean, if you don't see it before you even start on your career path, it's easy to overlook something. And so I mean, I think you spoke to, you know, the specific challenges other than like pipeline. Have you viewed anything else of like actual retention or any other things that are making it harder to keep people from diverse backgrounds in law firms, in corporate environments?
Yeah, I mean, certainly when we I think we're doing a better job of getting individuals into the space, but that retention issue is a real one. And I think the positive part of it is because individuals with diverse backgrounds, you know, they do very well, and so they move on to other positions. So that's the positive side. The negative side of it is sometimes people fall out from those positions, and part of it is because we don't have the support and the infrastructure for those individuals to continue to help them to grow. So a lot of these folks are first generation college, first generation law school. They don't know, you know, when somebody uses the term clerk as a verb, and you've never heard that word before in that manner, you just don't even know what is clerking, right? Those kinds of things aren't there to help support individuals, even once they get to law firms or into companies, continuing to foster their improvement and their ascension. There isn't a lot of that support because there aren't enough people that would be providing that support.
So I think you spoke an important thing of tools in place to retain people. And so this question is actually for LaNelle. I think actually all four of us on the panel have kind of come to IP law in sort of this area of this massive ramp up of IP law, right? I think it was sometime after 2004, it just exploded, be it through patents, trademarks, and now copyright with the AI stuff going on. In the time that you've been practicing, have you seen more tools or things better happen to keep people retained, people of diverse backgrounds retained in law firms or corporate legal departments?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me this question because the whole diversity boom started shortly after I started practicing. So that's 20 years ago where we were having the same conversation. And back then I saw probably what hopefully corporations and firms are not doing, where it was, okay, there's this diversity directive. Let's make sure we put their pictures in the RFP. We don't give them the work, we're going to put their pictures in the RFP. Or, oh, GC says they want diverse attorneys in this practice area. Make an associate transition to a whole new area. Don't give them the support that they need, and then kind of let them go. So hopefully that's not happening anymore. Where I have seen where it's been very successful is when there's been intentional engagement about the development of a particular individual, that you're coming to them without preconceived notions of their background, and that you're really tied into them, and it has to come from the top. Whenever it's, sometimes I've seen where it's been a grassroots effort, it doesn't go as far. If there's no buy-in from the top, you really can't get anywhere. And so I think that's where you're starting to see where there's this heavy group of individuals, like retention pipeline has worked, but now they're kind of stuck at the middle level, and they can't seem to get to the higher levels, directors, the C-suite, and that kind of thing. And so there's a lot of work to be done. It can be frustrating when that's been the situation your entire career, but I'm happy I'm in a place where I'm seeing some of the dividends of the work from the past, because I report to Dale, and there aren't too many people in the IP space that look like me, that's managed by someone who looks like me, right? So so it can work. It really can work.
So, I mean, I think I could say, I used to call that thing website diversity, right? Like you needed somebody for the photos, right? That
Yes.
you're in the pitch, but not in the room. I think I'm probably not going too far on a limb thing. I think that still happens. But like, I think it is nice to see folks breaking through, right? Like it is good that like there are, partners who are sitting on this call who have massive mega clients, right? Like Ricky works with us, right? Like there has been progress, but just not nearly enough. So I want this next question for Dale. What impact does a lack of diversity have on the practice of IP law and the quality of legal service that can be provided?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and let me answer it because it's a two-part question. I think the impact on the lack of diversity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Some of us, to LaNelle's point, if we don't see enough of us in IP, in certain aspects of IP, get lonely, and we may just feel that this profession or this part of the profession is not for us. And if we just take a look at the raw numbers, right? When we started out 20 plus years ago, I think it was less than 5% of US barred lawyers were of color. And I don't know if that's changed much, right? So I think some of the impact is that folks say, hey, this must not be for me. In terms of the service that can be provided, especially when you're in global roles, what Ricky was referring to in terms of being able to get along with folks of different backgrounds, cultures, races, et cetera, we naturally have that capability because we have to live in multiple worlds. Let's just face it, right? So I think for those of us who persevere, there is tremendous opportunity, not just in the typical, okay, I want to do the lawyer track, but being able to branch and bridge over to other areas. But I do think that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy from the standpoint of there's not many of us. So at the career fairs and these other sort of things where law students start looking for themselves, and they don't see a lot. Really not at like the Southeastern job fair, which tends to be more people of color, but at the large ones, the ABAs and so on and so forth. So it is an issue, but I also want to say that, to LaNelle's point, I do see pockets of change. So I was with GE for many, many years, and I was very fortunate. Some of my best mentors, without any question, were very, very esteemed and powerful Black lawyers. And there weren't many of us. You go into a room of 50 and you see one of us, they're like, hey, we're going to talk offline. It's kind of like the modern day Underground Railroad, but it's more of transfer of information as opposed to transfer of getting people out of shackles. But we were able to form that sort of network of substance to make sure that we helped each other to help ourselves to take it to the next level.
So actually, you mentioned that you were at GE, so I'm going to actually throw the next question back to you as well. Mm-hmm. How did that diverse legal team enhance or influence like the strategy you had for like a tech company big like GE?
Yeah, I would say tremendously. I think in two different ways. I think one was that we were very fortunate to be in an environment where you were among the best. You had to show up every day, and you had folks feeding into you, even though you're crazily intimidated on these big deals and all these other sort of things. But you had folks feeding into you, telling you that you can do it and you will do it, right? So it was initially just a shock, to be honest with you. But then once you realize that there's others pulling you along, then you realize how fortunate you are. And then you say, well, one day you want to be able to do the same. But it wasn't a matter of having to step your game up, as they say. It was a matter of really learning what the game is. First and foremost, the ticket to the dance is being a superb lawyer. No matter what it is, no matter what area of practice is, so on and so forth, such that irrespective of what your name is or how your name is spelt, when they see your body of work, they know we can't attack them from their work product. Irrespective if, LaNelle will share with you that sometimes folks may say, oh, well, he's from New York, he's mean, he's blunt, da-da-da, whatever, right? Okay, that's fine. But can you attack my work? You could attack my personality. I'm used to that. But can you attack my work? So that was sort of the model, substance first, and then personality. And because we just knew that more often than not, we were going to be the only one in a complex transaction.
Yeah, I mean, I think something what you said resonated with something what Ricky said, right? Like, it's not about stepping up your game; it's about knowing what the game is, right?
Oh, you got to know the
rules.
game. Yes. Yes.
And I agree completely. Like, I think when I started, like the idea that like I would sign up to law review, like to edit somebody else's articles, seemed ludicrous to me. Like, take some time out of my winter break to edit somebody's article. No, come on, man. And then the idea of clerkship, like, wait a minute, I have a job offer on the table. You want me to take a third less or whatever it was less and work for a judge? And then I got to look for a job after a year? No, why would I do this? I mean, it's something that really is. And then you start learning of like 20, 30 years later that people are still talking about person X was on law review and person Y did a clerkship for this judge. And you're like, okay, I wish I would have realized that sooner. And I think having people that you feel comfortable going to when you're young, right? Like when you're in law school to say like, what should I do? Like, I think that makes a huge difference. So, I mean, I think when we think about ways that enhance perspectives, LaNelle, since Dale called you out there, can you give me some examples of how like diverse perspectives have influenced IP decisions or outcomes?
Around Cummins or throughout my career?
Throughout your career.
Well, I've seen it in different ways. So, because to me, diversity is more than just, your ethnicity, your race. It's, where you live, where you're from. I can remember, I'm reviewing some things and something came across as, Chicago mix for popcorn. Well, I'm from the Chicago area, so I knew that no, we can't do a product that's called Chicago mix because there's one big famous one, and they were sued from a small, company in Minnesota. So having that background, that diverse background, not everyone from the same place, can add value. Particularly like, when you're talking about in the patent space, and if there's I remember working on some medical devices, but they were for women. The men had like no clue on exactly like what the actual device, what it was needed for. And so having that perspective, that viewpoint certainly helps. And then certainly with inventorship, oftentimes there's a certain group of people who tend to get left out. And so you really have to make sure that when they have an attorney that is from an underrepresented group, that at least allows like the engineers to say, hey, maybe this is something I can do. And that there's this, you start to establish this relationship with them to encourage them to submit and do all those different things. And so, I've always said that I think that the US would have made it to the moon sooner if there had been more diverse people in the room, at the time. And so to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't know why it seems to be such a difficult thing and why we really just can't move the needle. But when you have diverse thought, I think you have excellence.
Ricky, same question for you. Can you have any kind of examples of how, diverse perspectives have kind of influenced IP decisions or outcomes?
Yeah, I can give an example, and I wanted to mention something just because I heard Dale say it, and then it kind of resonated with LaNelle as well. But specifically, Dale said it depends on how how you spell your name, just the spelling of your name. So I have my uh, legal name on my website, and that's what's written here, Ricardo. Not one of you has called me Ricardo once, right? It's Ricky. And not only is it Ricky, but I spell it Riqui, which is always interesting to see how when people send me emails, they always know. I know he doesn't spell it the way I think it's spelled, but I don't remember how it's spelled, so they just try whatever they're going to spell. But because of that, we have this comfort, or diverse individuals have this comfort with addressing the perspective of from all sides because we're constantly thinking about how we're being perceived. And part of that came up just in an IP litigation matter that I was handling, where I was taking a deposition of an inventor, or at least this individual's name was listed as an inventor on a patent. He was diverse. He did not know that he was listed on a patent. He did not know that he had invented anything. And when I showed him the patent and tried to talk him through it, he said, "That's an invention? I didn't even think that was something that would be invented. I mentioned it to a colleague and it must have gotten submitted. And now here we have this patent." Uh, and because, some of the individuals on my team thought, "Oh, that's great. We can use that because this person doesn't think that they invented anything." And I was thinking, well, let's hold on for a second. What does it mean that he doesn't think he invented anything? What does it mean when he says this? He's not saying that there wasn't an invention. He's not saying that he wasn't an inventor. He's saying, I did not realize that this was an opportunity I could have taken, that this was something I could have done with the work that I was doing, because we tend to have this mentality of go to work, keep your head down, do a good job, go home, without realizing just in the space of the work that I'm doing, I have these other opportunities. And Aneesh, you mentioned that first time you met any IP practitioner was playing basketball years into your career. I didn't know what the word patent meant until I happened to learn that my then girlfriend's uncle's colleague was a patent attorney, and we were at a dinner, and he mentioned that, and I thought, what does that even mean? So having that ability to have take the perspective then led to, through going back to the deposition, extracting the story from this inventor of what they actually had done and how they had done it and why that was important to this piece of IP, to this IP asset, and how we could use that asset, or how the company could be using that asset going forward. And that ended up being much more helpful to us in the case than him just saying, I didn't think I had invented anything. But those questions might not have been asked if the person asking those questions wasn't thinking of the perspective of what if I was in that person's shoes, not having the knowledge, having the regret maybe now, him thinking back, like you said a moment ago, and he's like, I wish I would have clerked or been on a law review or done that because people are still talking about it. I bet he left that deposition thinking, how many things could I have gotten patented? How many things could I have actually had my name on? Thinking back throughout my career, if I had known these opportunities were there, and the sad part of it, if I had known that I was kind of being exploited by the company by being able to obtain this asset without him ever knowing it. I mean, even just a little plaque saying that he got a patent would be a nice recognition. But in hindsight, what were the opportunities that were available to him? That wasn't really explained to him, and I suspect that it's because there weren't other people in the room who would come at it from his perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, right? Like, so not even for like the legal profession, but just having less diverse attorneys just not around that are not friends and they're in social circles of engineers or entrepreneurs means they don't know the game a bit. And I feel I don't have any numbers on this, or I haven't looked it up, but the patents is particularly like esoteric area of law, right? Like nobody outside patent attorneys really knows what's going on. And I think there's like a few, engineers or anything, any company who understand the game and how to apply for patents, and they go on, they're serial inventors. And then there's a lot of people who are doing equally good work who just don't understand the game and have never been exposed to a patent attorney, and they never think about it. Just like your client there, just, yeah, clearly he knew he created something new and he was doing something for work, but he's like, I didn't know that was patentable. I didn't know that was something worth patenting. I know my company spends, $50,000 or whatever it is on a patent, and I didn't think it was worth it, but his colleagues did, right? And so like that was something that was, in some sense, his lack of knowledge was used against him in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's not just, I know these questions are really directed to be in IP, but it's not limited to that. It's just in the space in total, having somebody who recognizes the different perspectives that individuals might have, and realizing that just by giving someone a little bit more education, hey, that's a really good idea. You should talk to the legal department. Just that could have changed so many things for him. But there wasn't anyone to say that.
So I think, we all kind of acknowledge that there's issues. And I think the number one thing people always say is pipeline, right? Pipeline. So this is going to be for all three of the panelists. And LaNelle, I'll start with you. What steps can law schools, organizations, bar associations, tech companies, like the ones we either work at or represent, what can be done to help representation of underrepresented groups in IP law?
Well, I guess I would probably turn that question around and ask them, what have they done in the past 20 years? And what do they have to show? What's not working for them? What are some of the things where they need input from in-house counsel, particularly on how to grow your numbers? Because I think if you don't know how to do it now, like, where have you been? So, I think some of the things in my experience that I found interesting is from the law firm interview process when the students are in school. Many, when they look for diverse candidates, they come to Howard. They probably go to NCCU. They go to Texas Southern, but they change the ranking of the class so that, we're only going to talk to the top 1% at Howard, but at Georgetown, they're going to talk to the top 30%. And I really think that they should reconsider that because oftentimes everyone doesn't get into Howard. Everyone doesn't get into NCCU. Many of us decided to go there, and that has nothing to do with my ability and my acumen for the law. And so I find it interesting that throughout my career, many of the outside counsel that have to report to me probably wouldn't have given me an interview for a summer associate position or hired me, and I just sit back and laugh. And for a while, I used to keep rejection letters, and just kind of flip and just kind of like, oh, okay. All right. So I think that is definitely one, because if you want to see someone who knows how to really dig deep and is just a scrapping, hustling person, it's a person who is in a law school by God's grace. And so someone who's coming from a group where they're the first in their family to go to college, let alone law school, those people know how to work. And so it doesn't matter where they necessarily rank in their class. They can probably do the job if they just get the opportunity. So that was always a big red flag for me going through OCI, that whole interview process. And I think it's the same when they're just hiring individuals, because I have yet to find a situation where just because someone went to Harvard doesn't necessarily mean that they don't experience implicit bias. Like, I don't think they say, oh, you're okay because you went to an Ivy League. No, I don't think any of us are immune from having racial slurs, given to us, or any of those kind of things that you experience, right? And so I think when you start to kind of look at someone's background, start asking those questions about what did you do on that particular project, because you'll start to learn more about their work ethic, their thought process, and how they can pivot because in certain situations. Just because someone knows how to, write an article, a law review article, in law school has nothing to do with how they're going to practice as an attorney, especially if you're looking for litigators. So that's certainly an area where I think they should probably take a look, but hopefully they already have some of those plans and that they just need to enhance what they should be doing.
This is a great answer. And I mean, I think it's wild to me that like I still see job postings where they ask about people's SAT score, you know, for practicing lawyers, not even brand new practicing lawyers. You know, they still are looking for your class rank, and you're like, but
Yeah.
somebody's been practicing for 20 years. What does it matter? And
Writing
to the
samples, like all of this stuff, like what does it all mean?
What's it going to do? And like, and I mean, I think to the point, yeah, there's people who can't get perfect grades because they work during school. Like, like everybody doesn't have time to do like spend like 8 hours reading. So great point. And I will say, I do keep a list of rejection letters in my head. I will always. Dale, same question to you. What can we be doing better for the pipeline?
I think, I agree with everything that LaNelle said. And I could just share what I do and what I've done. And I am by nature a results focused individual, right? I'm very, very protective of my time. So just probably like everyone else on this call, I would imagine folks who've been on other boards and made donations and these sort of things. And I'm still on some. Sometimes I just get frustrated if I don't see progress, and I'm like, okay, deuces. It's nice for a photo op, nice for a yearly dinner, right? And all these other banner events, but how many have you brought across? So for me, I've always, no matter what my level of involvement at it is on macro things, I have mentees that I really pour into, that I lean on, and I am so proud of where they are today. And my warning to them is also, now that you're at the next level, who are you bringing behind you? Because if not, I'm going to come get you. But so for me, I think in addition to all of the programs and all of the other great things that's ongoing for like cultural awareness and et cetera, I think one of the best things that we can do individually is take one person by the hand, not just every once in a blue moon, and say, hey, tell me, bare your soul, show the vulnerability, and what are you really struggling with? Because I've been part of mentoring programs, formal, informal, and just like I'm sure everyone else on this call. But until you really, really could reach in and someone can say, hey, you know what? I just don't know how to go in and talk to that professor. Or I don't know how to, I got this rejection, or whatever the case may be, then there's not going to be that substantive personal growth that's necessary, because we keep talking about this word game. So at some point, maybe during this discussion, we should really lay out what the real game is, right? So I personally, I just think part of it is, in addition to all the macro kind of events, and that's all great, right? But I'm not a photo op type person, right? To me, it's like, am I helping someone with substance continuously, because that's how I was helped, because I could be a little stubborn, So I think that's one thing. I just want to get back to another thing that you referenced a couple of times, and that's this whole, should you have done this, or did you clerk, did you not clerk, what your grades were, and all these sort of things. And this is just a bit of advice, right? Everyone has their own sort of path, but you want to focus on abundance instead of focusing on scarcity or limitation. So in other words, not saying this to you specifically, but just for whoever's listening, we could really be hard on ourselves. We could really beat ourselves down and say, I should have clerked, or I should have done this, I should have done that, and so on and so forth. We are where we are. You got the tools that's necessary. Use those to the best of your ability. I can remember at Central, there's, for whatever reason, I did really well in criminal law and criminal procedure. Nothing to do with my background, and they really wanted me to be a criminal litigator. They're like, I'm like, I'm not interested in that. Okay, so he doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, maybe I don't. I could have clerked. I didn't clerk. That just wasn't what I wanted to do. Now, I'll never know if what my life would have been like if I did those things. Right? I won't know that. But for me, part of this game thing is making sure whatever we do, we get ourselves in a position that we're building wealth for ourselves. However we go, but I'll stop there.
All right, Ricky. Now I'm going to ask you the same question. What can law schools and organizations and tech companies do to increase representation in IP law?
This presentation right here, because the things that have just been said by Dale, by LaNelle, resonate with me, right? I mean, I get to learn and get a piece of advice from Dale Davis because I'm part of this conversation. LaNelle Owens mentions rejection letters, Aneesh, you mentioned that. I know that I sent out 77 applications when I was a 1L and I got 76 rejections. But I ended up here at Fish, right? It worked out. I don't have to worry about those other 76 because I just needed the one chance. And I did not know. I stumbled into it. It goes to what LaNelle just said. I stumbled into the one that was not a rejection was from Fish, and it wasn't even an acceptance. It was, well, we have this diversity fellowship program. You should apply to that. I didn't know that existed, so I applied to that, and now here I am. So I don't need to spend a lot of time talking about those 76, but I do mention it when I can. So just having these kinds of panels, these presentations, these spaces where we can share this information and learn from each other is just crucial because it's really the lack of knowing. I think a lot of when we talk about pipeline or even retention issues, it's just that people don't know that these opportunities exist. They aren't aware of what they can be doing beyond just go into work, put your head down, do a good job, right? Translating that into wealth, into opportunities for others. And I love what you said there, Dale, about taking somebody by the hand, because I'm sure we all have examples, stories we can tell where our hand was taken by someone and helped us out. So when you identify somebody in a room that you connect with, work with them, help them get an opportunity, just like you got opportunities given to you, or you were helped to opportunities in the past. And it all comes from these kinds of conversations and these discussions. And so it's one of the things that I'm really grateful to Charlie for, that this happens every year. We bring these folks together and we get to talk about what our stories are so that people learn that opportunity exists for you. You can take this path. And if you don't take a path, it's okay. And like Dale said, it's fine, right? You are where you are. So make the most of it. These kinds of presentations allow people to learn what that really means, making the most of it. And so doing things like this, doing them repeatedly, doing them often, I think is a really good way for organizations to increase that representation.
So, we're at the HBCU Tech Law Summit. How do we particularly help and encourage students from HBCUs to go into IP law? And I'll give this to anyone who wants to start with this one.
Let them reach out to us. Let them ask. We're here. We're here for them. At the end of the day, I'll never forget when I went to Central. Professor Charles Smith. He was the reason why I went there. And he was, I think, maybe the 4th or the 5th ever Black registered patent attorney, like ever. So I think, I say that from the standpoint of just letting the students here know with LinkedIn and everything else, reach out, and whatever we can do to help. I mean, I'm not sure if, and I want to make sure, Ricardo, is it okay to call you Ricky? I want to make sure, man. I want to, okay. I want to make, but I'm not sure if LaNelle or Ricky have other thoughts.
I'm sorry. I think I kicked that off because I've known him for a little while.
Yeah, no. So let me, if I could piggyback on that. I can say personally, and I suspect it's true of our other panelists as well. I've never had a student reach out to me and I ignored it and just thought, no, I'm not going to respond, or got bothered because they were trying to take up my time. I love the opportunity to talk to students, and I think you'll find that in all across many professionals. And I mean, the worst thing that could happen if you reach out is they don't reach back. But that's the worst that could happen, right? That's okay. If you reach out to folks, you'll find that there are a lot of people that do want to help, and sometimes that spark of you reaching out is enough to get them to actually do it because they're so busy. They don't realize, oh, I could be mentoring someone, I could be helping someone, I could be answering a question that's out there. So don't be afraid to reach out. I think that's exactly just great advice.
Yeah, look, I think the same. Like I could say I ignore tons of LinkedIn requests, but I never ignore student requests, right? That's when I always like cherish the opportunity to. And look, I put my LinkedIn in the window. I'm guessing the panelists are okay with you guys reaching out to them, but I won't speak for them. Like anytime you guys have questions about my path, I'm happy to answer. But I think that's a great point. Like reaching out to people who've been there. LaNelle, any thoughts?
Yeah, but one, like with LinkedIn, also don't be afraid to continue to send messages. So I will tell you what happens is I may see it and then life happens and then I forget. So please don't feel bad about constantly like sending, messages. Sometimes things just happen. But as far as like with HBCUs, I just, Dale, he knows I'm going to say it, but I have to give my props to Howard and Professor Mtima. So I was actually the first class at Howard when they started the social justice, the IP and social justice, and in that class, and getting that opportunity to take classes with patent professionals who looked like me, talking about what IP means from a social justice lens. That was the first time I'd ever had some of those conversations. And so that opened the eyes of many of us on a potential career path because I was still on the fence on which way I wanted to go. Yes, I'm a registered patent attorney. I don't say it often, but yes, I am. And so it was important for me in my development to know that I had this resource there. And then as you continue to grow in your career, I think I met Charlie probably a few years ago, and I was like, oh, he's also a Howard grad. Oh, okay. So then if I know like I needed something or how to do something, he's someone I can reach out to. Now there are many of associates that support us at Cummins that are also Howard grads. And so I'm pouring into them in any associate. Like, if I see you sending an email that doesn't make sense, I'm going to pull you to the side. I think it frightens them because I think for sometimes for private practice, they think in-house have like this halo, like we're these, beings. But I'm here to let you know, like I'm a regular real person. And so I made mistakes. I continue to make mistakes. And so I just want them to know, just to humanize, it's okay because you have all this pressure. And so, I just think doing those types of programs, having the clinics, working with corporations and other law firms to give them a sense of all the different types of careers. So just because you could be a patent attorney, there's so many different ways, so many different things that you can do. I was a patent attorney at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. I didn't even know that that was a career opportunity to do work for the government or federal contractors. So it's more than just law firms and corporations. And so I think if you do more and more of those types of things, I think that certainly helps students realize that there's so many other things they can do.
And Charlie, can people ask questions? I think, or only the panelists allowed to chat in here? I did want to give a pause and give.
No, people can ask questions and we encourage it. So students, if you got questions or professionals, we don't want to shade the professionals that have joined us that maybe, I know a lot of professionals that are looking to change careers and kind of get on the right path with security. The shameless plug for security solutions companies. But yes, please do put your questions. There's a Q&A. and we have a moderator who is checking them. So please ask these panelists questions, ask them the tough questions. They said reach out. For those who joined our lunch ceremony, I'll sum it up with what I said: closed mouths don't get fed. This is your opportunity. We are here for you. That's what this whole tech summit is about. You get a chance to get exposure and to ask questions about the career, even if you don't know what you want to do, to decide whether or not, is this something that I'd like to do? This is a diverse panel. This is your chance.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Like, you gotta get you out there. So yeah, please do reach out. So, back to the panelists, we did talk a little bit about, pipeline and getting your foot in the door, but I think there's like pretty grim statistics of like what happens about 4 years out of law school, right? Like, people get into big law, people get in somewhere, and then they hit the glass ceiling, they get some level of frustrations. They're in places that just do not seem to be supportive, and you lose a huge number of diverse professionals. Like, I think at 4 years and at 8 years, right? Like, what are strategies that companies and firms can do to try to help this? I mean, I think we've talked a little bit about mentorship that helps. Are there other things that you've seen that have worked to help with the retention?
So I want to say two things to that. One, I wanted to address what Charlie had said, right? Closed mouths don't get fed. I tell every summer associate or person that I'm interviewing, if you leave an interaction with me with questions in your mind, that's on you. To me, like, we got to put a little bit of responsibility on the audience as well. If you have questions, you need to ask them. And again, what's the worst that could happen? The person you asked the question of says, "I'm not going to answer that question." Okay, but you should be trying. That's not going to happen very often. You should be asking your question. So there's some responsibility there. As far as retention, there's what really needs, the message that I think helps the most is let them know that you're also going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. Another thing that I tell people that I work with is, it's fine to make mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice, right? Let's avoid that. But you can learn from those things. And one of the unfortunate truths of what happens to diverse professionals is that they make a mistake, and now they are labeled as the person with that mistake, as opposed to that was a mistake and we can move past it. What people see is the mistake first for the person. And so there's quite a bit of education that needs to go up in the upward direction, where you're telling people who are at upper levels and higher levels that however it is you're going to treat someone, you should treat them all the same. But if you just keep working with people that you like working with, and those are the ones that you keep giving opportunities to, that you allow to make mistakes, it's not going to help the diversity of the profession. And then going down, making sure in the downward direction, making sure that people at lower levels or who are coming up know that it's okay to take those risks, and that it's okay to challenge yourself and do something you might not be necessarily immediately comfortable with, but that might give you an opportunity to grow or to learn. So if we can increase that tolerance across the profession as a whole, I think it would help with that kind of retention, so you don't have that person getting to their 4th year and they're like, well, I made that one mistake on this case, and I feel like I built a reputation from it. I'm going somewhere else. I'm leaving this company. I'm leaving this firm, and I'm going to start anew. Or I don't want that dragging along behind me. But it's got to be on both sides. The person that's striving to move forward needs to know that they can take those risks, that they can overcome any negative issues that might come up. They have the opportunity to overcome them. And then those that are above, that are supervising, that are managing, have to have that tolerance and understanding, because they also made mistakes coming up. And sometimes it feels like you feel like they're infallible. No one is. So that messaging, I think, is really important to have it permeate throughout your organization, so that you don't have people dropping off at 4 years or 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a great point. Like, everybody makes mistakes. I mean, to some extent, I think if I'm not making mistakes every once in a while, I'm not challenging myself or pushing myself enough, right? I'm taking it too easy. But you do have to let people know, and I mean, in some sense, it's on you to let people know, like, I will not make that same mistake twice. I may make another, but not that one, right? And I think that's how you can recover and not lose your reputation when making a mistake. Dale, Dale, looks like you want to say something. Do you
Yeah.
some thoughts
No,
on this?
I was just going to say I couldn't agree more with Ricky's comments, and it's always good to hear from other people, right? I think that it is on the individual at the end of the day. And I think sometimes as people of color, we're way too hard on each other and we're way too hard on ourselves because we all make mistakes. And not to make light of those mistakes, but I think Ricky said it best. There's folks who have made tons of mistakes, and if they're walking around like they haven't made a mistake, you probably should be aware of that person because they're not, their mistake hasn't humbled them to realize that they're just a human being and we all make mistakes, right? But I think the other part is, what process do you have of evaluating the mistakes that you made? So for instance, right, when I was learning how to write, you know, say it could be a contract for a deal or patent, whatever it was, I made for each partner I was working for, I had this little Word file, right? And every time I made an error, it could be stylistic, it could be substantive, whatever it was. And, you know, every lawyer kind of wants it their own way. I would just put notes. So if I'm working for, you know, Jane Smith, make sure I do boop, 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 right? And I did that for everyone that I was working for. I still do that now when I do things for leadership, because I want myself to get better. I don't want to make that same mistake again, but I also want whoever I'm working with to know I acknowledge my mistake and I'm on this path to get better. So part of it is, you know, being okay that you make a mistake, but also what process improvement have you developed for yourself that will reduce the likelihood of that mistake being made again?
That's a great point. It looks like we got our first question in the chat. How can we leverage IP to create more opportunities?
I don't know if LaNelle said her piece.
LaNelle, sorry,
sorry.
LaNelle, go ahead.
Well, I was going to spit some game a little bit.
Do it.
So those students, and this is something that I'm still working on, but to set yourself apart, because sometimes if we're new in our family, we're in these, you know, uncharted territories. Make sure that you're getting mentors outside the legal department. What's going to set you apart is making sure, particularly in the IP space, do you have a mentor that can help you navigate on the technology side, whether it's engineering, data scientists, whatever. You certainly need to understand what P&L. If I say that and you don't know what I'm talking about, that's something that you need to know, and start to understand how the business operates. Lawyers are overhead. And so you have to understand what is driving the business. And so understanding the industry, if you're outside counsel, you need to understand the industry and that company that you're supporting. And make sure that in-house, they know that you know that company. If you're in-house, you need to know how the different business units, how they work, how they operate. And certainly if you can get a mentor in the finance department, that will also help you, because you need to understand how to talk business. Law school is going to teach you about the law, but you've got to understand the business. And so if you have friends, mentors that have gone to business school, start reaching out to them and asking them, what does this mean? Are you listening to quarterly reports? Are you listening to investor relations? This is, and again, I'm telling you that this is stuff that I'm still developing for myself, but I have learned that it definitely sets me apart, because you can start speaking the language with your business partners.
That's a great point. And I mean, like, I think it's, you know, they're not as popular anymore, but blogs, like if you can find something on the business or the technology or whatever, like it impresses your clients if you know something about their industry before they do, right? If you can share that with them. I want to take this question that was in the panel, and then we're going to do our quick speed round because I think we have about 7 minutes left. How can we leverage IP to create more opportunities for economic empowerment and entrepreneurship among individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, I'll say just really quickly, whatever, depending on what the disability is, there's going to be a solution to that disability. Lean into it and figure out how you could not only help, but how you could monetize that helping.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is know what it means when we say IP. Like what is a patent? You know, it's a negative right. It's the ability to exclude people from doing things. What is a trade secret? How's that different? Right? Trade secrets last forever, patents last for 20 years. What is copyright? Like what's a trademark? What are the different types of IP? If you have that knowledge, there are very few people in the world who can explain the differences between those four things. If you can explain it, and that means you understand it, and if you understand it, you can start to then learn how to wield it. But the first step is you've got to understand what it is, and also what it's not. Right? You don't just go get a patent and then the next day you start printing money. Right? You need to know that there's a difference between what these IP assets are and what they can mean for you or for a company, but also what they don't.
So
I
think
want
we're
to
entering.
I want
Go
to
ahead.
clarify something if the person who posed the question, because this is a great question, because I am a parent to a child on the autism spectrum. And so I think perhaps the question is really focused on people with disabilities tend to get excluded from the opportunities to submission and all of those different things. And so if I'm off, definitely put in the chat. But I think for individual with disabilities, it's the same as other underrepresented groups, just making sure that there are things in place that allow them to have access. And if you have to explain it in a different way, if you have to have modified certain things so that they are involved and that they are included, I think that is what is so important. Yeah, okay. I thought so, David.
Yeah,
I hope
think
I
so.
answered your
Then I just
question.
gotta say my bad.
I mean, I think for companies, like you should like come to understand how the ideas come to you and realize like if you're not reaching out to a segment, if you're missing a segment. So like you should be evaluating, okay, like this is how we get ideas. Do we do patent harvesting sessions? Do we do this? And like realize, okay, if I'm doing that, am I excluding groups that are not a part of these sort of cliques that you bring in? And so I think that's important, whether you're a person with disabilities or other groups that are kind of marginalized. So we have about like 4 minutes left. So Dale, I think you said like let's spend some time to share what the game is. So like, can everybody spend about a minute or so explain from their view like what the game is?
I think, to be honest, I think it's twofold. I think there's many games that you're going to be in, just like there's many hats that you wear. The game on the surface is really just figuring out how to be the best lawyer you can be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think the game that a lot of people don't see or look is this. Irrespective of where you go, at some point you're going to stop working, right? You're going to retire no matter what it is. Whether you work 12 hours a day, 100 hours, it does not matter. And what you want, the real long game, in my opinion, is learning and understanding compounding, the compounding effect of your decisions and the compound interest. So if you make $1, figure out how to live on 75 cents or 85 cents and spend as much time as you need to understand how to invest that, plug low cost index funds, and don't touch it. You have decades ahead of you. And I've seen company officers from big corporations, when they lose their job, the next thing you know, they're in the breadline. And I've seen folks who made not even a tenth of those company officers, when their job went away, they drove off site in a Rolls Royce. But it's really those long-term discipline decisions and with the compounding effects, to me, that's the real game. Everything else is noise.
Ricky, what's the game to you?
Well, just in the interest of saying something different, because the game to me is is pretty much what Dale just said. But also, I I want to spread. I'd like to have the population of people who were like me, who didn't know these opportunities. I'd like that population to start getting smaller. So to me, it's not just, I mean, the first step is exactly, and I couldn't agree more on this one point from Dale. Do excellent work. That goes without saying. Put that aside. That's you have to. So do excellent work. But then don't just do that, right? Also learn and teach. And so the game to me is every single time Charlie reaches out and says, "Hey, can you speak at this test?" And every time I get a chance to hang out with Aneesh, which is almost always now in some panel, I say yes, because I want to be able to spread that information. And because I have that drive to spread the information, it also means I want to keep learning more things. So I'm learning a ton from Dale and from LaNelle here, that the next time I get a chance to share with others, I'm going to do that. So take care of yourself and your family first. I think is kind of what Dale was saying there. Make sure you got your future secured, and then to the extent I can help anyone else, that's what I want to do.
All right, LaNelle?
Just quickly, I just think, the game is understanding what your purpose is. And once you know what that is, everything else just works itself out. And so, once you are tied into why you are here on this earth, there's nothing else that can stray you away from that. So when you talk about rejection letters, it wasn't meant for you because your purpose is to do this. And so figure out who you are as a person, do well. But as long as you're tied to that purpose and you're tapped into it, you're going to do fine.
All right. And so for me, the game is surround yourself with people you can learn from, like great people, and listen to them, right? They'll get you the right way. And so that's why I'm so thankful to be here today with our panelists who I've learned from. Ricky, Dale, LaNelle, thank you. And of course, to my good friend, Charlie, always great to see you.
Yeah, I learned from everyone here, and next time, let us know. I just want to sit in the back, Charlie. I just want to sit in the back and listen.
Well, look, y'all done stole all the thunder about purpose and everything. We're about to talk about that. Thank you all. That was a great panel. And listen, students, that wasn't just for you. I know a lot of professionals that have been practicing a lot of years, like Dale said, that need that advice. So thank you all. I think you guys have positively impacted the people today. That is wonderful, and stick around, because some of the stuff we're going to repeat, because you guys got the game down pat. I can tell you're peaceful and happy. Thank you again.